Hey everybody, it's Mark, Dr. Deadwax, and it's time for day 24 of the Inbox Challenge. Halfway there. Halfway. Today's numbers were brought to you by 78 RPM Block, Bjorn. Bjorn picked 3 numbers. Thank God. And I'm going to do all 3. And tonight's beer is Beau's All Natural Brewing Company Seasonals, which this is the fall seasonal Night Marzanne, which is an Oktoberfest lager. This is brewed out of near Ottawa, Ontario. Bomber. Has a nice coppery color, gassy. Head goes down to not much, a little bit of lacing. Nice beer. Nice clean lager with a little bit of hop at the end. It's just a nice enough beer. And I like the cap that says, "This machine kills imports." I think that's pretty cool. Alright, so let's do the records. First record, the band Islands, 1978, Capitol. This is on the orange Capitol label. There's nothing interesting in the dead wax. The only thing that's in the dead wax that is worth showing you is the Capitol symbol, which is at like 3 o'clock there, which is never going to pop because they're always really faintly done. But I can show you exactly what it looks like because it's on the album cover. So it looks exactly like this. It's like a circle with another circle around it with a line coming out of it. It's like the letter C. It's like a target. It's the Capitol target thing. The band were done. They were calling it quits. They were over. They were finished. They were no longer in love with each other. They were breaking up. And they wanted to do this last waltz kind of concept, and they had been talking to Scorsese, and he was on board with it, and you know, the whole project was coming fast and furious and going to be done, and they were sweet talking all their friends to coming on and doing blow with them and singing songs, and it's going to be a great time. You got to be there. But they didn't want it to come out on Capitol because I think they were kind of pissed with Capitol. So they had one more obligation with Capitol. So they went to the studio and they pieced together this dog. And this, I'm sorry if this is the first band record you ever listened to when you were 10, 12 years old, and this is your gateway into the band. I'm sorry I'm going to say what I'm going to say about this record because I understand it has deep emotional attachment to you. But I didn't come in then, and I've heard the rest of the catalog, and this is a steaming turd. The best song on this record is a cover of Georgia on My Mind, which they recorded 2 years previously for Jimmy Carter's run for the presidency of the United States, for like commercials. That's the best song on this record. There's like this horrible song that Robbie Robertson wrote for his son when he was born. It's like, you know how these guys, they like to write these Christmas tunes in the hope that their Christmas tune will be like, will just take off and become a cultural touchstone, and they'll make billions of dollars off of it. Well, this Christmas tune blows. And the better version of this Christmas tune is on Southern Cross's CD, where they had originally recorded it and rejected it. Because basically this is full of songs that were recorded for other records and rejected, and they weren't good enough for B-sides of the singles that were released for those other albums. So they had this pile of steaming turds that they unzipped the Ziploc bag and pulled them out and redid some of them, and away we went. And the songs lack passion. There's a little bit of that. Some of them have that band storytelling, you know, the story songs. Even those are terrible. It's just a bad record. Now I understand if it's your gateway, you're going to love it, because I've got gateway albums that I love. And let's move on. Don't ever buy that record. I have 2 copies of that record. I thought, you know, here it is again. I don't want to listen to this piece of crap, but I'm going to listen to it again with fresh ears. Oh my God. Genesis, Invisible Touch, 1986. What is this? The follow-up to Abacab? Or is this before? I don't know. Anyways, this is a crap album. Just Johnny Negative here tonight. Canadian. Vanity labels. Different on both sides. DMM Master Disc on one side of the Deadwax, DMM RL-Master Disc on the other side. So that side's a Robert Ludwig. The side without his signature isn't a Robert Ludwig because they're actually written in different hand. You can tell they're written by two different people. Insert if you want to learn the words to Tonight, Tonight, Tonight. I can tell you the words Tonight, Tonight, Tonight are Tonight, Tonight, Tonight. Whoa. We're going to make it right. Tonight, Tonight, Tonight. Whoa. Okay? You don't need a lyric sheet. So if you find this record without the lyric sheet and you want it, buy it anyway because you're not missing anything with it. Invisible Touch was a single. That was just crap. Tonight, Tonight, Tonight. The better version of Tonight, Tonight, Tonight is Take Me Home, which is on Phil Collins' solo album because it's the exact same song basically. Take me home, because I don't remember. Land of Confusion. Okay, Land of Confusion is a fantastic pop song. Great pop single. Topped the charts worldwide. Fantastic video with spitting image puppets. And lots of political commentary. Great pop song. In Too Deep, I guess that was probably a piece of shit that Phil Collins didn't want to put on a solo record because it's a Phil Collins song. It's like Phil Collins' solo song that is tagged onto the end of this record. Anything She Does is Domino. I want to look. It's Domino's got two parts to it: The Glow of the Night and The Last Domino. Maybe no. Domino's, let's say Domino is a good song, okay? Okay? Good song. That is as far as I'm going to go on that. Throwing it all away. There's another Phil Collins solo album reject. That wasn't good enough for a B-side. This is kind of like Islands. And then the Brazilian. Okay, the Brazilian's an instrumental, and it's pretty good. I think the Brazilian's the best song on the record. Unfortunately, it's it's one of the instrumentals, and Genesis does these great instrumentals, but this one isn't great because, see, by this point there's three of them left. There's Phil Collins on drums, there's Mike Rutherford on bass and guitar, really, people, and Tony Banks on keys. So Phil Collins, he's playing the gated 80s drums, he's playing the electronic drums, he's playing great drums. The drumming on this record is great. It's better than the drumming on most rock records. Phil Collins is an awesome drummer. He drums awesomely on this record. But Mike Rutherford just writes the most boring, plodding bass lines now. They're just like 1, 2, 3, 4 bass lines. There's no greatness to them. And his guitar playing consists of like a really bad guy who didn't pass a Rolling Stones rhythm guitar auditions guitar playing. It's just dull rhythm. There's no power, there's no leads, there's no, like, why didn't they get Trevor Rabin at least in here and schlock it up with that 80s gloss guitar? Like, they should have brought another guitar player in after Hackett left, because with Hackett, he's doing great guitar work on the Genesis albums he's on, and now all of a sudden he's left, and a couple albums later we're down to like a band with no guitar, basically. Like, there might as well be no guitar. The guitar can be played on a keyboard because all it is zzz, zzz, zzz. Then again, let's talk about Tony Banks' keyboard playing. All he's doing now is playing like boom, 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 boom. Gone are like the intricate soaring solos on keyboards. They're just all these high-pitched 80s synth crap. Not that 80s synth is all crap. There's lots of great 80s synth bands. This is not an 80s synth band. Sorry. So basically, you can avoid this like the plague. because it doesn't have the redeeming song on it. Now we're talking about the Gateway album. My Gateway album, the Genesis, was Duke. Now lots of people think Duke was crap. I personally think Duke was the last good Genesis album, although there are some good songs on further Genesis albums. This Genesis album does not have a good song. But nothing going back and expanding myself to more of Genesis after my introduction album, nothing compares to the early Genesis. It's just brilliant. So you don't need that. And finally, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Pictures at an exhibition. This is a first U.S. press on cotillion. You can tell it's first in a number of ways, but the big one there would be the, it's not going to focus there, the 1841 Broadway on the label. So that's one way you can tell that that's an original. So that's the cotillion marble label. This has some interesting dead wax. In the dead wax there's PR, which stands for Philip Recording Court. And later you'll see that on the dead wax it's PRC. And they were the people that made the plates. And one side has ATGP on it, so that's Atlantic George Piros. So but he only cut one side because the other side has different handwriting. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. Nice original early inner sleeve. So this is a live record of material that was recorded live but had not previously been released. There is also a studio version of this record that I think came out on a double CD release later. So this is Mussorgsky. He was a Russian composer. This is basically his music, pictures at an exhibition performed by Emerson, Lake and Palmer live. There's a couple things in here that are done by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And they're okay. They're not the strongest parts of the record. And it ends with Nut Rocker, which is done by somebody else. I can't remember. Is it Tchaikovsky who did Nut Rocker? Or it's based on Nut Rocker? These paintings inside were painted by William Neal. Of interest here is the painting for the hut of Baba Yaga. Is the background, can you see that? I don't know if I'm even showing that on camera, but here, that's the background. All of these, my spatials are just terrible, aren't they? All of these lines going back in this Baba Yaga image are taken from the front cover of the Tarkus record. And so yeah, so these were real paintings and these were hung somewhere. And it's a good record. You know, it's not their best record, but it's pretty damn good. And this is a fantastic pressing, but just sounds excellent. Lots of bass. I think it's a third plate. It's got C in the at the end of the matrix code, so I think it's the third plate. But it's still really excellent. So there we go. So highly recommend this. This is a great record. U.S. pressing, cotillion. Look for it if you can. 1841 Broadway. You know, unless you're a completionist, you do not need this Genesis record. If you are a completionist, you do not need this Genesis record. Unless you're a completionist, you do not need this record. And if you are a completionist, sweet God, give that up because you don't need this record. So that's the end of today's records. So 24 days in, I think I have 24 more to go to reach the goal. I don't know, 24 days of this enough? Have you all had enough? Because I could spend the next 24 days just kind of ranting like an idiot, or selling you stuff, or you know, I could sell you records. Do you want to buy this record? $1. You want to buy this record? $1. You want to take both of them off my hands? I'll give you $1. Or I could just stick with what I'm doing. Anyway, have a great day, everybody. Keep the record spinning.